Yeah, welcome everybody to another edition of the Fly Racing RacerX podcast. Thanks for listening and watching. We're doing video on this one also because this gentleman is so important. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it. FlyRacing.com. Use code PulpMX when checking out. Cooper Webb, Justin Brayton, Club MX guys. They got a lot of stuff going on at Fly Racing. And the Kinetic Mesh is out now. Love it. The mesh gear they released at Daytona. Some of the new styles and colors. It's my favorite line of gear that Fly Racing makes. And if you use the code PulpMX, you can save on that. Kids gear, women's gear, off-road stuff. The patrol stuff is really great for off-road. And the Formula helmet's amazing. So use that code to save at flyracing.com. Thank you to RacerX for hosting this as well. Also, Motorsport, Renthal. We'll tell you more about them later on. Maxxis Tires as well. Brunt Workwear. So thanks again for watching and listening. With me is a gentleman that's been around the Supercross scene for a long time, selling the sport behind the scenes, and I have a lot of questions. Sometimes I'm ranting and raving on my show, and this gentleman has come in the past and helped us out with some answers, and I got some more questions. So, Vice President of Global Partnerships over there at Feld Incorporated on the Supercross side, it's Dave Muye. What's up, Dave? How are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. As I like to say, the better Muye, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will accept that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not like the other one. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Lots of questions when it comes to Supercross. And people should know, like, your time at Feld, you predate Feld. You go back to whatever it was,
Pace.
Live Nation. Yeah, Pace.
I started way back at Pace. Yeah.
Right. So there's it's not like sometimes you're like, oh, the circus people bought Supercross. And that is true to an extent. But there's a core group of 5 or 6 of you that were absolutely been involved in the sport and have loved the sport for a long time. And so, yeah, you're one of those guys. Yep. I guess, hey, the big news with you guys, Monster re-upped for the SMX series. They covered that, but also Bass Pro Shops jumped on board. This is the sort of the genesis of this podcast. We started talking at one of the Supercrosses. It's awesome to have Bass Pro on. That is a legitimate, outside the industry sponsor that is new to the sport. It's really cool to have them on. And I know from what you were telling me, you've been working on them for a long time. So congrats on the Bass Pro deal. How did it all come together, Dave?
Yeah, so I don't want to totally just pass over on the Monster piece because that's important, right?
Yep.
Next year we'll be celebrating our 20th season of Monster Energy Supercross. So having a title partner for 20 years is absolutely amazing. We have a whole suite of partners that we've had for the better part of a decade. Again, that doesn't just happen, right? That takes a lot of work and effort as an industry, as a company for us at Feld to evolve and continue to think like marketers and how we can provide value for these partners over that long course of time. You bring up Bass Pro Shops. We're super excited to have them. As you mentioned, I've been chasing them most of my career, which you kind of led into. This is my 26th season of Supercross. Right. So I've been chasing them for the better part of that. And we finally were able to just connect the dots. And the timing was just right for Johnny Morris and we did the deal with their CMO, Dylan Paulson. It was just the right timing for them to sit down and have the conversation about outdoors people and anglers and the Supercross community and what our fans like to do when they're not riding a motorcycle, and really make that marriage and connection for them to see that, like, these are the same people. And this is a whole adjacent audience for us, meaning Bass Pro Shops, in this motorcycle community, this world-class racing property. And also for us as Feld and the SMX property to see all these anglers and outdoor people maybe that we aren't reaching, or maybe have an opportunity to reach them in a different way. So that's generally how it started. But what really, I think, pushed it over the top was our ability to take our SMX championship final to Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, which is also owned by Johnny Morris, and take that race there and put it into that amphitheater setting. And that was really what kind of drove this over the top to make it make sense for Bass Pro Shop. So everything just came together at the right time, and got us a really great partnership that's good for us on a whole number of levels. One of which that we haven't really talked a whole lot about is the fact that Bass Pro Shops is really helping us promote the sport outside of our normal and typical channels. So what that means is we'll be included in Bass Pro Shops catalogs that go out to millions and millions of people each year, with ads talking about camping and the ability to camp at both Pro Motocross and the SMX finals. Social media, they've been wonderful about that. They've just recently created a landing page for the SMX finals on their channels, which, I think they have 12 million or so social followers, something like that. Like, just wild and crazy and great numbers of ways for us to reach through Bass Pro Shops, which I think we can all understand and admit is a very culturally relevant brand, right? You see Bass Pro Shops hats everywhere.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are aware of the brand, and we're excited to have them.
Nobody happier than Malcolm Stewart, probably.
Nobody
Maybe
happier
you?
than Malcolm Stewart. Yeah, he like me has been chasing him along part of his career,
Yeah.
and that was by design, is to work with an athlete so that Bass Pro Shops entered into the sport much like they do NASCAR, with something they understand, which is athlete sponsorship, or in that case, driver versus and rider. Some of the exciting things we've done with Malcolm here, just in the early days and weeks of the partnership, is we've done 2 autograph signings with Malcolm. And they have performed incredibly well. I was at both of them, one in Glendale, one in Daytona, and around on the Friday night prior to the race. Lines literally wrapped around the store, fans just beside themselves to get to spend that time with Malcolm in the store. The store's happy because all these folks are coming in to, hopefully buy things, but, spend time with Malcolm and be a part of it. So yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah. And again, this is early, multi-year deal, I assume, right?
4.
4 years. What's been, I know you just spoke about the autograph sessions, but can you see some effects on our sport from Bass Pro pushing it? Have you seen anything like tangible? Again, it's early, but have you seen anything?
Yeah. I'll call it more chatter, right? Like,
okay.
In today's world, it's hard to do anything and get 85 to 100% positive feedback, right?
Right.
Largely, the positive feedback has been probably in that percentage online and in just fan surveys, all that kind of stuff. Our fans are very welcoming of the Bass Pro Shops brand coming in. And I feel like, to maybe a lesser degree of my understanding at least, Bass Pro Shops fans and consumers very accepting and saying, wow, this is great that we're finally involved in Supercross, because there are these fans of Supercross that I don't think Bass Pro Shops knew they had as customers. So have we seen, big upticks in the measurables? Tough to say if it ties off to that or not, but our first 3 Supercross of the year were sold out. Television numbers are exponentially up this year. Social engagements are up. All of the measurables are up. Is it just Bass Pro Shops? I can't say for sure. I think it's a combination of everything, but I'll use that word again, culturally relevant. Having a big culturally relevant brand like Bass Pro Shops certainly is helping.
Also, your shirt you're wearing, 511, they came on this year. I found a little bit more about them, sort of off-road / camping gear. They're big. They've been a big part of the series, I see, so far.
Yep. Purpose-built apparel is what they go with,
that's
right?
it.
And they truly live that. Everything that they do, build, design, it has a purpose to it. And they really like to focus. It's been really fun and interesting work with them. First of all, they're leaning very heavily into the sport in all the right ways. When I look at partnerships that we've worked on over the course of 25 plus years, they're probably doing it the best in terms of how they're coming in and how they're leaning into the fan base, into the athletes. They're sponsoring the Triumph team. They're working with us. I don't know if you've seen at the races, they're creating those patches. I think I have some, kind of over my shoulder here. They're creating an individual patch for each individual race of the year that is themed to that city. They create 2 of them each week, and fans can vote on it, both online and at the race, to decide which patch will be made for the next week. It's becoming a collectible item, all these different things. And they're also helping tell a story of support and being, I hate to use the word fabric, but the fabric of the sport in terms of like how the things get done. So our track crew, they've leaned into our track crew and are outfitting our track crew with apparel head to toe because they're the guys that get it done in the trenches and work hard. So it's been really a great partnership with them as well. Again, great to welcome new people to the sport. They are eager to learn. They're eager to lean in, and it's been really good thus far. And I expect big things from them in the coming days, weeks, months, and years.
I don't know if specifically if it works where 511 is your client or somebody's client, but Bass Pro I understand because again the NASCAR tie-in for a long time. How does someone like 511 get into the sport? Do they know anything about it? How does that deal come together? When do you first approach them? That way, I'm interested in sort of a company like that is not affiliated with Supercross. How do you get them into it, and what do they think?
Yeah, so I have a whole team of people here in the office that are looking for brands that could make sense for our sport. And there's at any given time in the pipeline, there's literally hundreds of them, and they range from everything you can imagine, from consumer packaged goods to apparel brands like 511 to the Bass Pro Shops and the really big blue chip brands and everything in between. And we're constantly I have a team of sellers that are constantly reaching out and trying to open that door to have the conversation and tell the SMX story. Every now and then we get lucky with that and someone picks up the phone and we're able to have that conversation. Best case scenarios, we can get them out to an event and so they can experience. Supercross, as you well know, is a very visceral experience. It doesn't translate as well as I would love it to on paper or on a phone call or a video chat or anything like that. The numbers are great. We can share all of our demographics, all that stuff, and that tells part of the story. But getting them there is really what drives it home. The CEO of 511, we were able to get out to the Salt Lake City finals last year. And he came out and graciously spent the entire day with us. We walked him around. He toured haulers. We took him down on the racetrack, pre-track, did a track walk. He came down during the race to see how fast the bikes were going and see how those obstacles were being approached, all that kind of stuff. Saw the track crew working and all of the pieces that go on behind the scenes of, again, back to kind of their core brand of supporting those type of people. And he was impressed. And he went back and said, I think we need to be a part of this. And, you know, he found the budget and got his people around their head around the fact, like, we're going to enter into this sport that maybe some of you don't know about. And I think, like Bass Pro Shops, I think he found some people in the organization who are like, well, we should have been doing this for years, right? This is great. I'm totally aware of this sport.
Yep.
And so, you know, I'll say that I mean, that's how that one happened. That's how a lot of it happens is if, you know, it's multiple conversations, it's educating on the brand. It's hopefully getting them to see it on television, on, you know, tuning into Peacock and watching it. If we can get them out to the live event, that is all the better. That is usually super, super helpful in driving that story home. And, you know, introducing them to the athletes, showing them kind of the behind the scenes, all the different content, tuning them on into podcasts so they can learn more about, you know, what's going on. So all the different touch points that our sport has recently created and seeing that it's becoming a bit more mainstream, that all helps as well. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, like, is it a good business decision for them? And if we can tell that story with the numbers and seeing the fans there and how they engage in the fan fest, all that, it's, you know, getting that story to drive home.
It's interesting. Your job is one of, like you said, a lot of contacts, a lot of hits, a lot of calls. One hits out of, you know, whatever, 100, right? And they become partners in Supercross and they go on. I'm good friends with David Evans that worked at JGR for a long time. I think he's helping the Star guys out now. Corey Gibbs, RIP. I've talked to him a lot about this. And Muye, as you know, I'm a little bit of a glass half empty guy. It's just my trait. I need to be more positive like you, or maybe Mike. But you know, it's weird because JGR with their NASCAR connections just couldn't seem to get a title sponsor for that team. They had great clips for a while and Auto Trader or whatever, but and I don't get it because if you look at our social numbers compared to IndyCar, you look at our riders numbers on Instagram. I know that's not anywhere like a cut or a definitive statement, but our guys have huge followings. Hayden, Roxon, Eli on social, more so than NASCAR drivers. Your Supercross account there at Feld has a lot of followers, and I don't quite get it because we got a younger demo. It's very exciting. If you go to an event like you said, the fan zone stuff's packed. The stadiums have been packed. And I get a little frustrated at times because I'm like, wait, where are some of the guys that we see at IndyCar? Why aren't they coming to Supercross? So I guess, Dave, that's a question for you. Like, I feel like we're and again, this is just me. I feel like we're number 2 or 3 motorsport in the country. Maybe F1's more popular now. It's definitely gained some traction, but NASCAR obviously is the king. So what do you hear about our sport when you just approach some of these companies? Obviously the Bass Pro and the 511 work, but what do you hear about our sport as far as like we're not into it or we don't want to support it or whatever? What kind of things are you battling out there in the corporate world?
Yeah, it's you know, I like to sometimes say that it's safety, right? Like marketers like to do what they know or what they feel that, you know, their bosses are aware of, right? So I think for many years, Supercross has battled an awareness issue. We just talked a little bit about it, right? Like the more times that our good friend Sean Brennan can get us on the Fox and Friends and on the Pat McAfee show and those types of things, that all helps. More and more people are finding us on Peacock and watching and engaging socially and all those things. So all those numbers rising is great, but we're getting in more and more places. Maybe you've seen us with some things in Sport Business Journal. We're finding more and more places where marketers are. So it's great to have all the fans, and that's wonderful. But how are we getting in front of decision makers as an aside, not just when a salesperson picks up the phone and calls them, but where they're aware of us ahead of time. So that awareness piece is some of it. Some of it's safety in terms of like, you say IndyCar, like if you were to pull 100 people, probably more people have heard of the Indianapolis 500 than have heard of Monster Energy Supercross or the SMX World Championship, right? So I think it's some of that, and that comes down to then safety. Marketers want to be safe. They're, they think maybe it's a risk. If I jump into this dirt bike thing that nobody else in my organization knows or supports, it could be detrimental to my position and job. So it's that extra hurdle we have to clear to prove and show, and that goes back to getting them out to the event and see the fans in the stands, see them out there engaging and interacting, see how much younger the audience is. That's one thing that, we didn't just touch on, right? Talk about IndyCar and NASCAR and stuff. They have a wonderful audience and a very large one, but they're not as young and vibrant and engaged socially as ours. So, what are the hurdles? I think sometimes it's safety, sometimes it's budget, sometimes it's timing. Like there are all these different things, because I'm always amazed at how many times we can get down the road with someone and then there's a change at the brand management level, at the CMO level. Like there is not, if you ask me what's the most frustrating part about my job, it's that. You get to to use a football analogy, inside the 5-yard line, and it's a fumble that we didn't cause or make happen, right? It's just bad timing.
Yep.
So that's some of the things. I would say it's mostly that kind of that hurdle to clear to make people understand not only what the sport is, but what it can deliver for them.
Is it somewhat a lack of signage as well for the riders and teams? And I mean, obviously you're coming from the event side of things and you can do banners and all of the activation that you guys do, but is it somewhat where, I do notice that sponsors over the years, they're like, hey, we're going to help the series out and then we're going to go with a team or a rider. And guys come in and go. You see over the years. Do you hear that a lot where they're like, I don't see our stuff on bikes and riders enough or big enough for it?
Yeah. I don't hear it a ton.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm a firm believer in any time that we can, like we did with Bass Pro Shops, and we have other examples of that over the years. I think anytime that we can bring a partner in, and 511 is another example, anytime that we can bring a partner into the sport and have them have a touch point with a rider and team and the series, I think that is the best case. That gives them a true 360 type of experience, because there are many things that the teams and athletes can do that we can't, or we struggle to deliver. And there are things that as the series that we can do that athletes and teams maybe struggle to deliver. So together, when we work together on these things, it's better for everyone. That's easy to say, right? But there's only so many dollars and there's all these things.
Yep.
I think that we have to continue to evolve how we can work with the teams to be able to provide value, because you're right. At the end of the day, we don't have a hood and a quarter panel and a door and everything else like NASCAR. It's much smaller. So, we try and work on that even in our television broadcast, how we shoot and how tight maybe we pull in on interviews and stuff, so that, at least the logo's on their jersey for the guys that make the podium, like that shows up. There's only so many things we can do, but we do think about those things. Like, how can we help these teams and these athletes, knowing that, maybe you have one logo on the sleeve or on your leg or on the side of the motorcycle, like what can we do to help with that? So it's a constant thought process here of, how can that be better for the athletes? But yeah, I think to your point, the inability to provide massive exposure on the motorcycle and the athlete is definitely a challenge.
When you go back in time, and like I said, you got 20 plus years of this, like when you think of a guy like Speed Stick, let's say, they were around forever, right, in our sport. And there was pit samples and everything else, and you guys were involved heavily with them. When they leave, why do they leave? What do they tell you? What do you hear from them? I mean, they were a great partner for a long time.
Yeah. So that one specifically, I was around for, and I was a part of it. The reason they left specifically was exactly what I talked about. They had change at the brand manager level. New brand manager came in and wanted to put their thumbprint on the brand, and they took and shifted all that money to the NBA. So nothing we did wrong. The program was performing wonderfully. There were zero issues, but the new person liked the NBA, and so they took the money and went there. And I think we can all argue how that did or didn't work for them. Insider trading, it wasn't as good as Supercross, I don't think. And to this, 20 years later, we still don't have them back. So I don't have an answer for that part of it.
Yeah.
But that is the absolute answer as to why it went away.
Yeah, I mean, it's just same as like me selling the Pulp MX show, right? I have ads and I have a long run with somebody, and then they just say, hey, it's going to try something else, and that's fine, But I'm just wondering, like, guys like that fully outside industry people, or even Toyota, to example, although that is pretty tied into dirt bikes, but they come in and they support the sport strongly, and then they leave, and I'm like wondering, did they like it? Did they not like? What do you hear? But like you said, it could be just somebody.
Yeah, if you look across our portfolio over the years of sponsors that are no longer with us, I would challenge us to find one that left because the sport sucked, didn't deliver what was promised, all of those things. It's 100 other reasons, but again, maybe people just aren't telling me in my face, which I don't think is the case, right? But it's not because we didn't perform, we didn't deliver, we didn't have a young audience, we didn't do all the things that we said it was going to do. It's budget. In the case of Toyota, it was COVID, bad timing. Like we were days away from renewing that program when COVID hit.
Oh, jeez.
But I think we've been really good as an organization and wider as an industry of evolving with these partners. If you look back over the Toyota partnership, right? Like we did things like the Make Up the Mud program, and we did the Warfighter, and we told all the different stories and ebbed and flowed with Toyota's business as it evolved, as we've done with Monster, from starting with them when they were Hanson's Beverage all the way up through where the juggernaut that they are today in motorsports. And that ability to kind of ebb and flow and continue to work with them in ways that help launch new products and help them stay relevant and help us stay relevant and all those things, I think, as an industry, I think we're pretty good at. So it's rarely that. It's rarely underperformance. It's always some weird other factor.
Dave Muye here, Vice President of Global Partnerships from Feld, Fly Racing, RacerX Podcast. Use code PulpMX to save. Thank you to Renthal as well. The 661 bar back in stock, the one that Eli Tomac's been helping develop and win races on. And they have a direct-to-consumer site as well. Over $99 gets you free shipping. Renthal.com. First access to the new products as well. Mountain bike stuff, moto stuff, bars, sprockets, chains. Renthal.com. Thank you to them. Maxxis Tires, Maxxis.com. Jeremy McGrath, the king of Supercross, helped develop these Maxxis tires that you see out there in main events, mountain bike tires, UTV tires, and more. Thank you to the folks at Maxxis Tires for coming on the show. Dave, what is, when you work with riders and teams to help promote some things and do different activations, do you get much pushback? Like there's this yin and yang of teams getting sponsors, the series getting sponsors, the series needing things from riders and teams needing things from the series. Is that a battle? Not a battle's probably the wrong word, but is that an ongoing thing where, hey, help us do this, we'll help you do that? Blah, 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 blah. How's that?
Yeah. Yep. And it's all relationship based, right? So it's forming the relationships and gaining trust between the two, that we're not out to do wrong by one another. We're all in the same boat here, and the goal is to make us all better and grow this sport because it's good for everyone. And I think that in the last 10 years, for sure, specifically the last 5, I think that exponentially gets better each year. I think the SMX Championship has helped with that a little bit because you have less of this disjointment of 17, 11, and the addition of the 3. Right. I think that's all helped. We've done things like creating the steering committee and whatever to bring the OEs more in, which is the teams, and give people more voice and that kind of stuff. So is there pushback from both sides? Sometimes, sure. There always is, because we're busy, they're there to race and win championships. They're high-level athletes. They have regiments that they follow, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we need things at times that are inconvenient, vice versa. Is there always a little bit of rub? Sure. But I would say largely the relationship building has been significantly better and is at a really good place to where we're all rowing in the same direction and working together in a much better way. I don't experience it as much as other parts of the business. Prater, my brother, Sean Brennan, they have a lot more needs of the athletes. We don't have that quite as much. But if I go and ask for something and Sean has treated this athlete poorly in his line of the business, it makes my ask much more difficult, and vice versa for him. So again, collectively as Feld, we do really, we work really hard to form good relationships and earn their trust. And I think it's reciprocal from the athletes, right? Like I think they try and do right by Feld in the series and the championship whenever possible for them. So I would say it's not a major rub point today.
I have heard over the years, and there's been complaints from teams, owners, Feld taking their sponsors, Feld contacting their sponsors and saying, "Hey, help us out. Don't worry about the team or give us some of your budget." And I got to say, I think it's better. I think there's a little bit better synergy than there was over that. There was some harsh feelings, years ago about this. Do you want to address that? And do you acknowledge that? And you guys are maybe doing a little better with talking to the teams and not trying to go around them?
Yeah. So again, same kind of thing, right? Like building that trust, and we're doing our best to, whenever possible, make sense, and we have the ability to help bring these partners in with some level of team or athlete experience as well. Again, my two most recent examples would be Bass Pro Shops and 511. There's others as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's also things like what we did with Synchrony and WMX, right? Like, I think that's going to help benefit all of those women athletes in some form or fashion down the line, outside of just the series and championship partnership. I've heard that many times as well. And I always ask the same question to a person, especially if it's, you're not accusing, you're asking a question to allow me to answer, which I appreciate. But like, when accused of that, I always ask for the example. And I don't know as though I've ever been given one.
Okay. Okay.
Right? Like, you guys take sponsors. Please name me one. I would be open to hearing it, and maybe it's something that I missed along the way, but I can't come up with a single example where like we have taken a partner from a team or poached something of theirs or whatever. Again, I find it to be usually the opposite. I think there's a few people that chirp about these things that exaggerate,
yeah.
Or take something maybe that they heard in passing and turn it into something that it wasn't. Because even 10 or 15 years ago, there's examples of Makita as an example, right? Like, where we worked with Suzuki and us and brought that program together. And it was, I wish we still had Makita, but it was a really good program while it lasted. We worked really good when Ricky and Kerry had their team. Like, there was partners that we shared. There's always a little bit of challenge with, we'll stick with that team example, right? Like, they had Dodge at the time and we had Toyota. There are some challenges there when we're selling the series versus what the team wants to do for a partner that they bring on. I think sometimes those challenges of us kind of pushing back and forth on who has what rights to do what, whether it be the team or the series, I think sometimes those challenges can get blown into, well, we lost our sponsor because you all had Toyota, and that becomes we stole something, right? Yeah. I have those same challenges, though. There are partners that I have in the portfolio and have historically had in the portfolio where, because the team has sold something for maybe less or maybe even provided better service, I don't know what the reason was, that we've lost the partner. I think that's just part of the growing pains of the way that we're set up, and you have these teams as separate and individual entities that have to get down the road and race, right? They have to create dollars through sponsorship to be able to make it to the races, and we totally understand that. And the series that also runs on some degree of sponsorship. And so, to answer your question more clearly, do I think we've gotten better with that? I do. I think that there's a much more symbiotic relationship there in terms of understanding that at the whole entire organization level. There are a handful of people that have always understood that live in the Supercross ecosystem. But I think organizationally, and then again, back to, our relationship with the teams and the OEs at the highest level, I think that's gotten much better, and we're not steering clear of one another, but being much more cognizant of the other's needs.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, and I don't have any concrete examples, but some of look, it's not the Wild West. The teams just can't do whatever they want to do with their sponsors and activation. I totally understand that. And they push and push and push, and they just, and all for good reasons, right? To get their sponsors out there. And it's not the Wild West, but I do feel, I don't hear as much, Feld won't let us do this. I feel like back in the day, it was just like, hey, you can't do this, and we're not telling you why, but we're the bosses, and everyone had created hard feelings. I think there's more communication. You guys work with them better, and I don't hear nearly as much bitching from teams about Feld and they won't let me do this, they won't let me do that. Like, it does seem, it's a synergy. You use the term synergy. I think there's more of that now.
Yep, I would totally agree. And I think that was rolling 5 to 7 years ago. I think it really got rolling when we all joined hands and launched the SMX World Championship. That's us joining hands with MX Sports. That's the teams and OEs coming together and saying, we want to be a part of this, and tell us how we can get on board and work with you, not against you. I think that was an industry coming together. I think that, the Coombs family and the Feld family, got together and got that ball rolling. But I think it's hats off to the entire industry for embracing it as quickly as they have, which has now allowed the fans to embrace it. And now we're all going much further, much faster as an industry. And so it's cleaned up some of those little things, right? The little paddock disputes, and the Feld's the big 800-pound gorilla doesn't let us do anything. And, us chirping about, teams or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Again, it's not perfect. We're still growing. We still have a long ways to go, but it is significantly better than it has been historically.
Yeah, I've said this on the show, like Alex Martin, for one, who owns Spring Creek, right? His family does. He's like, dude, Feld has got some great marketing ideas. They've passed on to us to help sell tickets. Yes, and it's helped their business. Just take, let's face it, the national people are great and they're core, but they're not exactly in the modern age a lot of times, right? And I think you guys have been like, hey, here's how to sell some tickets. Here's how to package things. Here's what you can do. So I love that. I love hearing that stuff is working. Feld is helping MX Sports, because Dave, again, you come from an era where that would have been pretty unbelievable, at one point. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
For our sport. Yeah.
Yeah. And I give a lot of credit to the tracks and the national promoters and MX Sports, right? They had a really great business model that was working really good for them for a number of years. But they've still been open to our ideas and our thoughts. And we don't do everything perfect, but we do sell a lot of tickets because, as SMX is one part of our business, but we have a whole slew of other properties that sell millions of tickets around the globe. So we've learned a few things to reach fans that are core, that are not core, how do we replenish new fans each year? Because, some of our properties skew very young. So kids age out constantly. We're constantly have to refill the funnel. Like, we don't have a sport per se in those instances that you can just build on. You're constantly reimagining yourself. So we do have a lot of really good ideas, and I applaud the outdoor tracks and all those families and MX Sports for embracing that and saying, you know what, we don't know everything either. We'll listen to some of your ideas. And again, some of them are working, some don't, but everybody's been open to trying. And I think, again, you're seeing the betterment of that. If you look at the attendance numbers, social engagement, television, it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And old timers like myself still can't believe that what's happening, but it's really, like you said, it's been a positive for the sport, the industry, the OEMs, everybody. You mentioned you with Feld and their power of selling tickets worldwide. Of course, they were a huge, massive company before they bought Supercross and monster trucks, and you were around before then. So what's been eye-opening for you as far as using Feld's might / resources / brain power to sell Supercross from the old days before Feld to now? Like, what kind of stuff have you seen them really, really be good at?
Yeah, moving into the family-owned business has been amazing. And couple that with the fact that the Feld family not only owns us, but they're incredibly engaged and want to make things better and want to try new ideas. So when you have a family-owned business, even as big as we are, we're still family-owned business and the family's heavily involved. That creates an entrepreneurial spirit throughout the organization, right? So people are willing to raise their hand and say, I have an idea. And oftentimes the organization says, that's great, run with it, right? It's not like, well, we'll farm this out or we'll check with these people over here.
Let's run a focus group.
We have the people, the brain power, the knowledge, the expertise somewhere in the building that we can help and run down these ideas and come up with new creative solutions. So I think that type of support from the very top of the organization is incredible, and it's different from maybe some of our other iterations where we were just trying to earn profit for Live Nation or Clear Channel. Nothing wrong with those business models. It's just different, right? You have the people that actually own and have a stake in this thing want to own and have a stake and have a say and help be a creative solution for how to make things better. And you can take a much longer range vision, right? You're not just trying to earn profits for this quarter or for this next fiscal. They're taking long range vision of saying, here's where we want the sport to be in 15 years. And then working backwards, like, what is it going to take? What are the steps? What do we need to do today to make that vision come true? Like, I think that only happens, maybe not only, it tends to happen more often in a family owned or, I'd say sometimes a smaller organization, but the beauty is we're bigger. So we have a lot of resources, but we also still have that localized or, the families involved and helping drive the success of the programs.
Is there a Dave Muye of Monster Jam?
No,
okay, you're both. Yep.
Yeah. So our global partnerships team, we sell and manage partnerships and licensing deals across the portfolio, which today is the SMX World Championship, Monster Jam, Disney on Ice, and Ringling Brothers Circus.
So do you have an easier time selling Monster Jam stuff? Just because, I mean, look, those things are packed. Kids, right? It's really kind of cookie cutter as far as what you're doing. And I think people know that. I think they know what that is. Do you have an easier time selling that?
I think easier would be overstating it, but it is different, and it gives me a good lens into a lot of the things we're talking about. So Monster Jam 10, 12, 15 years ago was, again, the seller picks up the phone to sell Monster Jam, and you do the explanation of, no, it's not, hillbillies in a fairgrounds or whatever. This is a professional organization that's coming into major stadiums and arenas around the country.
Yeah.
And there's millions and millions of fans that come to this.
Selling 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights, whatever. Yeah.
The old Sunday. You had to overcome that, right? Like we talked earlier in the conversation here about overcoming the initial hurdle of understanding what SMX is. And these are professional athletes and they're the best in the world and all those kind of things. Same thing with Monster Jam. Fast forward to today. The licensing component of Monster Jam has been absolutely door opening for us.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Cool.
So Monster Jam now is much more of a 365 brand. So instead of just being when we come to Las Vegas, and that's when you hear for 6 weeks, you hear about Monster Jams here in Las Vegas and we're performing and we're going to, come see the trucks. That was all that you would know of Monster Jam for any fan around the country. We came to your market, you knew about the show, you went or you didn't, and that was it. Well, now you go into a Target or a Walmart and there's toys and there's trucks and there's kids' glasses with Monster Jam and there's bedding and there's shoes and there's books at the youngest ages, Scholastic, a program we have with Scholastic. So the licensing component and getting out from under our old toy partner and just being a small subset of what they did with Mattel to now what we have today with a master toy partner and Spin Master that creates all of these opportunities plus, 50 plus other licensees to help drive that business and awareness so that Monster Jam and the play patterns of those kids is year round has really opened a lot of doors. So easier, no, but it definitely removes a large portion of that hurdle. Because now when you call and talk to someone about Monster Jam, like, oh yeah, I know Monster Jam. I went as a kid. I just took my kids. I took my grandkids. My
kids bought a truck, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So from that angle, the discussion has been much more fruitful and robust and quick to happen than again, 15 years ago where you're explaining what it's not. Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you what, just like you, I travel a ton and I talk to these hotel front desk clerks and, waitresses and waiters and all of this over the years. And it's always like, is that Travis Pastrana? And is that the monster trucks? Those are like the two things when I'm like, yeah, man, I cover Supercross. Is that the monster trucks? Is that Travis Pastrana? So,
And when you get into that atmosphere, right, of where like monster trucks is a thought, and go back to what we talked about before about, IndyCar or whatever, like some of that I think resonates a little bit, right? Like, and I'm lucky that I have that internally here that I work on every day, that I get to see what it's like over there. And so like, how do we get SMX to be that much of a household name and more of a 365 property that, when we're having those conversations with the marketer, like, oh yeah, I'm aware, my son's a huge fan. Like when we can get to that starts really opening the doors. And again, I have a front row seat to see exactly what I'm preaching.
Yep. Do you think Brian and Hayden Deegan have pushed the sport a little higher to different spots than we've been at? I mean, we know their marketing power. We know the following that they have. Has that helped?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think anytime you can reach new fans in different places, I think is a wonderful thing for especially a sport of our size and what we're trying to do and accomplish and where we're trying to go. So yes, I think that the Deegans and what they do and, tying in of Haley and the NASCAR piece and what Brian has built over many, many years, what Hayden has now taken the mantle and is running forward with and bringing in new young fans and love them, hate them, whatever, it doesn't matter. He's bringing in new people. He's getting new eyeballs. He has people talking about the sport. Fantastic.
Yeah.
On top of that, I believe in to be generational talent. We also have generational talent in Jet and Hunter. And I mean, just what we have going on right now in the sport is fantastic. And I think each athlete has their different thing that they're interested maybe off the motorcycle, right? So, Hayden's got his persona going on. Jet's interested in all the fashion things that Jet's interested in, and golf and all this stuff, and Malcolm and anglers and fishermen and outdoors folks and whatever. So again, all of those side channels I think are incredibly helpful as well. So not only do we have a really diverse and talented field on the track, we have a really diverse field that, in my opinion, is some of the best we've ever had in terms of things they're into differently and are attracting those kind of outside ancillary, different audiences to the sport, which is all fantastic for all of us.
I tell you what, the crowds around Hayden's truck remind me of Travis Pastrana. That's what made me ask that question, because that's something different than our usual crowds. And so when I walk around the pits back in the Pastrana days, I saw the same thing where I was like, holy crap, and then the same thing with Hayden. So yeah, that's a positive for the sport. By the way, going back, I know this isn't your territory, but can you tell the Monster Jam guys, I used to race these, I did this little, like in the 90s, I did this Monster Jam circuit. It was trucks, giant trucks that crushed cars. And then we raced in between the lanes, and we had a little Supercross race, quote unquote. And we were like in football stadiums, like CFL, like Canadian Football League. But anyways, Dave, tell the guys, there's that thing they called like Carzilla or something, and it comes out and it picks the cars up and it breathes fire.
Yeah, Robosaurus. Yeah, there's several names. Yeah, they go by many names. Yeah.
Dude, I love that, Dave. And I thought the crowd back in the 90s really loved that. So can we get Robosaurus or Carzilla back?
I will make a note of it and get it in the right hands.
Thank you.
You don't need to be in charge of entertainment. My job is...
Yeah, no, I know. But you must know the guy.
Oh, I absolutely know the guy. And I will make note to let him know that we have a fan request for a Robosaurus-like activity.
I felt like the Robosaurus breathing fire, picking up cars was incredible. And you guys, I know you guys do really well on the Monster Jam side, but maybe that extra 3% would come from Robosaurus. So
perhaps. I don't know when the last time you saw Monster Jam was, but I'll tell you what. You should go again if you haven't been since Robosaurus days and see what these guys are doing in these trucks.
Okay.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
It does look pretty neat for sure, because Seven Deuce, big part of that series. So I talked to him about it. And then he tells me about, like, it was really refreshing to hear some driver was mad at him because he was saying the driver was braking trucks too much and he needs to calm down. And then, on the TV show, and then the driver got mad at him. And I'm like, oh, look, it's just like Supercross. Look at that. It's exactly the same stuff. So, it is neat to see. Thank you to Fly Racing for coming on board this podcast. Code PulpMX to save. And also thank you to motorsport.com. Go through the banner on PulpMX to help you out. Whether it's tires, tubes, gear, whatever, OEM parts, they'll ship it for free over $79. And they got a new sweepstakes going on, weekly prizes from Fly Racing and many other partners. And they're going to give away a Club MX YZ250F bike, all decked out with all the sponsors. So thank you to Motorsport and Brunt Workwear. Speaking of outside industry guys, Dave? I got Brunt Workwear. You got Brunt?
Nope, I don't.
Well, looks like Pulp MX.
More brands, the teams, the athletes, anybody can bring into the sport. I think is fantastic.
Well, Pulp MX has got Brunt Workwear on board, the Marin boot, the Omen boot. Pulp MX show saves you with Brunt Workwear. They got a bunch of clothes now as well. Working man's clothes, not guys like Dave and I. We don't do that things, but there's guys out there that really work hard, digging ditches and things like that. BruntWorkwear.com. Pulp MX show saves you with those guys. Renthal, Maxxis, Fly Racing. Dave, where? And I don't know if you want to give us specific examples. That'd be great if you could. Who's a few companies that you got to that 5-yard line and it didn't work, and things that mainstream people that we've all heard of or whatever? Are there a couple of, and I'm sure you're always working on it, but is there a couple of companies that you're just like, man, I was close, and this would have been so awesome?
Yeah, sure. We've been really close on several military deals, and just again, those things that are just outside of our control, right? Like whatever's going on with DOD and funding and that kind of stuff has yanked the rug out from under us on a handful of occasions at the 11th hour. Unfortunate, not because they didn't believe in the sport, not because they didn't believe we'd be an amazing recruiting tool for them. It just didn't work out. An interesting story. We got fairly close with a off airport rental car company.
Okay.
And serendipitously, it turned into a different acquisition, whatever, which I hope to have something that you'll have me back on the show to talk about. But we're hopefully days away from announcing a rental car partner.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
An off-airport one, but we're excited about it. I think they're going to take a significant position in the sport and just another outside the industry. So what started out is what you asked, which is one that we went, oh my gosh, we're so close. Ended up working out really well in the end. So again, hope you'll see that come out very soon. None really jumped to mind that are specific, because most of them aren't like, we didn't get it done today and we're out of the game.
Yeah, we're out.
Most of them are still pending, right? And so in our funnel, we slide it to 2027. Like, okay, we continue conversations and we push towards 2027. So I'm cautious to give out any names and potentially offend those folks for not coming in 26, right?
Or maybe Pulp will scoop in and get it. So I get it,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't have any of those specifically that I'll name by name, but yes, it happens all the time. You mentioned it a little bit on the front end, and you drive sponsorship for your business, right? Like you start with this many that you talk to, and then it just funnels down further and further and further till you get to the one deal. So there is always a whole bunch of different levels of where we're at. We're right there. We're almost done. We're close to done, whatever. But most of the time, very rarely does one end with like, yeah, we're not interested. Never call us again. In fact, I would struggle to think of an instance of that, right?
Lose my number. Right.
Yeah. It's usually not now, not today. So it goes into the funnel, into the 2027. We keep having the conversation and we move on to the next. So yeah, there's a bunch of them, but none that come to mind that I would, say, yeah, this brand just passed in the sport for whatever the reason is. Because we do a lot of homework on the front end, so we're not wasting our time or a potential partner's time. If we know it's not a fit, they're not even on the list, right? So most of the time, we already know the answer to the question or the answers to the test before we start, that we know it's a good fit. We know our demographic aligns with their customer base. We know that we can deliver value and door swings at retail or whatever they're trying to do. So yeah, not a ton of those that where I'm just like, man, that one got away.
What's the craziest sponsor request you've got without naming the name? Like what is there, has there been a partner over the years and you go back a long time that wanted to do something that you're just like, yeah, man, we can't really do that.
I mean, we always start with yes, right? And then figure it out. Right. Like my brother and Prater and that team on operation are really good at figuring out, our social team and Sean, everybody is really good at figuring it out. So we always try and start with yes. Do we get some wild things that we have to say yes, but yeah, all the time. I'll use just kind of more of a funny example. When we had that speed stick relationship, you mentioned the pass outs and handouts, whatever. It was 25,000 little individual deodorant samples that they wanted passed out. Think about an Anaheim Stadium, that's 45,000. So you got to get one in every two people's hands. And there was no plan for how to do that. They would ship pallets in. They were boxed in like cases of 12. So somebody has to open those boxes, figure out how you're going to get them out the exits, all this kind of stuff. Like it was a daunting task. We did it. It worked. It was good. But that was one of those ones where like, we probably should say no, but we'll say yes and figure it out. But yeah, there's always a handful of those that like, especially as you're bringing in partners that don't understand the sport. Most are pretty open-armed. I mentioned 511 earlier. They've been very open-armed to listen, understand how can we come in and be authentic and relevant to the fan base, to the athletes, to the team, to all of the pieces. That's great when it happens like that. Sometimes it doesn't happen like that. And they come in and they're like a bull in a china shop and they just don't know what to do. And so they do things and they maybe alienate a portion of the fans or whatever. That does happen from time to time. And sometimes they must learn the hard way and we let them, do what they think is right. And then we rein them back in. But generally speaking, I find that these partners, as they come in, are pretty open to us as the experts and saying, here's what we would suggest. Here's what we would do. And again, there's always little pieces where they want to try and do something that we're like, that's not going to work. Or you're going to look stupid or whatever. Most of the time they're open to listening, or they try it for a short period of time and it's so unsuccessful that it doesn't even appear on your radar and you didn't even notice or the fans didn't notice. But yeah, generally speaking, they're pretty good at letting us be consultative on how to enter the sport.
When something happens on the track controversial, and it gets fans into uproar, or AMA does something or whatever. And then you've got, hey, we're going to boycott Monster, or we're going to boycott this sponsor, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of that going on these days. Does that ever make it to your desk, Dave? Do you even care? Like, are you part of that? Because there, sometimes the fans can get a little ruly, like, or the sponsor of a rider that's getting lapped who accidentally takes somebody out, that the week to week uproar of the things that happen on the track. Does that ever make it to your desk and you have to make phone calls?
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
Okay.
For sure. Now on a weekly basis, not so much. The incidents that you just referenced from a couple weeks ago, not so much, because there was really no sponsor impact.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes some of our really long-term sponsors will call with just hey, is there going to be impact here? What's going on? More for inside scoop than anything, right?
Yeah, right.
Hey, what's going on over there? But there are different times where like things could have some more impact on a potential sponsor, or on a sponsor, could have potential impact on a sponsor. They're few and far between, but yeah, they do land on my desk, and we're uber sensitive to say, even though this is an aside, and this is more on the competition side, and it really doesn't impact you, sponsor. Whether, it might be Monster, it might be whoever. We usually try and give a heads up, especially if it's something that, like, if you saw it happen on the racetrack Saturday night, that's one thing. But if it's something that happened maybe behind the scenes, or maybe it's a shared sponsor with that athlete or whatever, we may call and say, look, this is coming, be aware. But there's not a ton of instances where on track parlays into sponsorship. It's more the off-track things that could happen that could put a blemish on the sport or a black eye on the sport in general. And again, knock on wood, that doesn't happen that often. But those are more the things that kind of, we look at, how could this potentially impact a sponsor?
Interested to get your take on this. Now, Monster's been a big part of the sport, as you mentioned, going back to Hansen's. And by the way, I wish I would have bought some Hansen stock way back when, but I kind of shook my head at Sepkovic a little bit, even though we're friends. I'm just like, how can this guy possibly know what's going on? But anyways, so Rodney Sachs and Mitch Covington and all these guys at Monster, Dave, how have they changed in 20 plus years of dealing with them? What's been their enthusiasm for the sport? I mean, look, we all know that Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar, they love our demo and they love our sport. Just talk about the evolution of that partnership and really friendship at this point, how that goes.
Sure. Yeah. So in those early days, right, like they were a small, an energy drink. It wasn't even really a category, right? Like they had this brand with this green claw that nobody was quite sure what it was. And they were going up against the big dogs in Red Bull at the time. Rockstar was involved in a lot of capacity. So from that being this small challenger brand and figuring out how to get, in their words, cans in hands and sips to lips or whatever, they had some little sayings that they had, right? Like figuring out how to do that to now fast forwarding 20 plus years to this massive, I got to be in the top of at least nationally, if not globally recognized brands with that M-Claw, right? So very different. How has the organization evolved? They're actually an amazing organization, how they look at the business and how they function both on the sales side. So that piece of like driving can sales at retail. So you'll see, at the races, you'll see maybe a Kroger and an AM/PM logo in certain markets or whatever. Well, that's the sales side of Monster in driving can sales at retail. So that's part of the business that we do. Then, the sports marketing group, who, you mentioned Mitch and Dave Gallen and that team and driving the cool factor of the M-Claw and all that. It's been really interesting to see like how those kind of two separate entities have worked to grow the business and the sport as a whole. So I appreciate working with them in terms of what they want to bring to the sport, how they want to entertain fans, how they want to show that cool factor of the brand. It's one of the few brands I've ever worked with that is so focused on the culture of the brand outside of just what it may deliver or what its features and benefits might be of the given product or company, right? So from that regard, they haven't changed much. They've always said that claw is what's important and what drives the culture and the brand and all those kind of things. So that part hasn't changed, but how they've launched new products and new flavors and new things and gotten into new disciplines. And, I've seen things that Mitch has done, interviews he's done and otherwise where they talk about Tiger Woods and American Pharoah and all these different things that they've kind of tried, in my opinion, is good for us, right? Like the more they get into things like that and enter more people into the Monster funnel, Monster Energy Supercross and Monster Energy Supermotocross World Championship benefits. And then our fans benefit by things when they get into, MMA style fighting and they bring that, or they bring in bull riding, or they bring in a concert, or they do all these different things, world championship and world class BMX and dirt jumpers into the fan fest. Again, all of that, all those touch points help bring more and more eyeballs onto the sport. So as much as they've changed and grown as a business, they really remain very true to the brand and the culture of what Monster Energy is. And I think they would tell you, and I think I've heard them say publicly, that Supercross is very much a part of that culture. And that's a really good place to be with a brand. You said friends. I think that we're largely friends as organization as well as at an individual level. And I think that, being a part of someone's culture, they're certainly a part of ours, and they've said that we're a part of theirs. And when you have that, like, that's really the sweet spot. I mean, you really strive for that as an entity like we are, and a brand.
Yeah, I feel like, Rodney or Covington just call Prater and they just hash out a deal and it's done, like whatever. Like, I don't, they know exactly what they're getting. You guys know what they're getting, and a great partnership. And it's probably as much turnkey as you could possibly get at this point. You never want to say never, Dave, but I mean, do you ever see, and everything ends at some point, maybe a nuclear holocaust or something, but do you ever see them departing the sport or leaving the sport? I kind of don't, right? Like,
yeah, I hope not. But I say that, but I also at the same time will tell you, the moment we stop evolving with them and helping them drive new product and understanding their culture, I think we give them a reason to walk away. I think today we're doing everything we can not to ever give them that reason to leave the sport. And so with that, no, I hope and I don't foresee them leaving. You talk about it being turnkey. So this last renewal for the 5 years or whatever was probably almost a year back and forth between myself.
Oh, really?
And Mitch and
Dave,
wow.
Okay.
Just tuning things up, right? Exactly what I just mentioned. Like, how do we tweak things? We've been doing these things for 15 years together. How do we tweak? How do we make it better? How do we, because this one also, remember, went from just Supercross to Monster Energy Supermotocross World Championship. There's a piece of the outdoors. You got the playoffs now. So there's a lot of moving pieces to make that happen. It's a significant investment for Monster. It's, again, a massive part of what we do. So, like, how do we best represent the Monster Energy Supermotocross World Championship going forward? What does that look like? How can we best help you all to continue at retail and drive these new products? And what can we include in the Fan Fest? And all of these things, they have their opinions on what we do in opening ceremonies, right? That we take on board and we say, yes, we can do those things or not. And, all of those pieces, there's actually, I wish I could tell you, and again, you're in the sponsorship business to a degree as well, right? Like, sometimes there's really easy renewals, and sometimes, especially these more complex, big deals, you're always tweaking them and saying, well, okay, this worked, this didn't, let's take that out, let's put this in. So I wish it was just super easy and turnkey in some regards, because it's just easier. But in some regards, I'm really happy that we're having that level of conversation even after 15 or 20 years, because it means they're still engaged, we're still engaged, and we're getting, we're providing value. We're not just rubber stamping this thing home and hoping that it works for them.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, you do have to evolve, right? And they are part of the SMX now. That's a whole negotiations as well. Bruce, when Bruce Sternstrom was over there, and obviously he's an advisor to Cowie now, he was telling me about the creation of the Monster Cup, and they didn't want it to be a 17th or 18th Supercross. They want it to be unique and everything else. That event is obviously been replaced by these playoffs. So how much does Monster want to do things with the creation of the sport? Are they always trying to bounce ideas off of you and you guys? And and as far as the racing goes?
Yeah. So the Monster Energy Cup is a really good example, right? Because we're coming out of the US Open, which was sponsored by their competitor, right? And they didn't want to be an 18th Supercross. So we had to do everything a little bit different. I think that actually helped to a degree set the tone for what the SMX World Championship playoffs became, because that was our first foray into kind of a hybrid track. It went outside of UNLV Stadium, and there's some different nuances to that track. We went up in the stands there. We did all these different things that I think kind of helped set maybe what the footprint may look like someday for the SMX World Championship. Monster was involved in what the SMX World Championship looks like. Like, they had a seat at the table and an opinion, and we talk a lot about how the Felds and the Coombs and MX Sports and Feld and whatever, but Monster was there. They were in that conversation as well. It's like, where do you see the sport going, and what opinions do you have? And Dave and Mitch both had opinions and thoughts on what it could look like and what it should be and what it could be. And so, I do give them, and I think we as an organization give them credit, not just for being a great sponsor, but also for having ideas and wanting to grow the sport alongside of us. They always have ideas, and some of it's competition based, but more often it's marketing based. It's markets we could go to. It's how they can perform at retail to help grow the sport and talk to consumers when they're gassing up at Maverick, right? Like those kind of things. Yes, they absolutely have opinions, and we welcome them. Just like I talked about the tracks and the outdoors, embracing our opinions and ideas and thoughts, because we have some different ones from a different area, as does Monster. I think Monster does a lot of really cool things with a lot of other properties, athletes, otherwise. So we absolutely listen to them and take their counsel on some things. We don't do everything they ask, and they don't ask us to do everything. They say, just listen to us and see if some of these things make sense. And sometimes they do. So again, back to just really good partnership. That's what you really hope for, is to be able to have that kind of relationship.
Are they on the Monster Jam side?
They're not. They were at a time. Okay. Same kind of thing. It worked for a product that they were launching, and then it just didn't take hold.
Well, we could do Robosaurus, Monster Robosaurus.
I mean, now we're getting somewhere, right? Like we check 2 boxes, Monster back in the Monster Jam, right. and you get the dinosaur.
The Robosaurus. How many events are you looking at, Monster Jam and Supercross? Obviously, we know the 31 on SMX. Yep. How many events are Monster Jams?
So depends on how we define events. So we're about 350-ish performances, which would be a Friday night show or a Saturday night show. And that's in about 100 plus cities.
Damn.
So we run 5 tours of Monster Jam. So if you think SMX has 1 tour, we have 5 of those for Monster Jam.
Think of that. That's like absolutely nuts, right? The ops side of that. Yeah.
Yep. So 300 some performances. That's, if you're an average out, that's 1 a day. There's a Monster Jam happening. So on any given Saturday night, Feld's producing 12 to 14 events, right? So 5 tours of Disney on Ice plus international. You have the circus is 1 singular tour, and then you have SMX and the 5 Monster Jam tours. So,
damn. This might be a better question for your brother or Prater, but taking SMX international, do you ever see that happening?
Yeah, I never say never. We're always looking for where's the next new and big, bad opportunity for SMX. We are very focused on international expansion. So we truly believe that we have a world championship here. If you look, I don't know exactly what the numbers are off the top of my head, but I want to say it's, in the ballpark of 20-ish riders representing, or maybe, I'm sorry, it's 80 some riders, I think, representing 20 some countries. Right? Yeah. So this is where the world is coming to race dirt bikes at the highest level. So do we need to go international? Not sure. That's what we're constantly playing with. We're constantly looking at where are people tuning in and consuming the content internationally, social, digital, otherwise. So do I say never? No. I mean, as you know, years ago, we've been down this road and explored it, and it comes with a host of challenges. Do I think we'll do it? I do. I don't have a timeline on it. It's going to be when it makes sense for us, when it makes sense for the OEs, for the athletes, for when it makes sense for everybody, and we have the right home for it, where we know it can be successful. I think you'll see us do it. But figuring all of those pieces out and doing it at the right time for the sport is what's going to be key.
Yeah, get Pernard back on the line. Just call Pernard.
Yeah, what's he doing?
Nothing. Now it's time. We'll wrap this up quickly here. By the way, thank you for your time today on the Fly Racing RacerX podcast. The media in our sport, and here's the time for you can roast all of us. How much do you consume media? Because I mean, obviously you're very busy. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we do better? I mean, look, I know I've said things over the years that have absolutely pissed some important people off, and am I always right? No, but I have a strong opinion, and that goes back to my glass half empty, the crowd, old guy yelling at clouds. Sometimes I can be that way. But yeah, what's your take on the media covering the sport? Like, to me, I'll just go on a little bit of a race tech rant here. And I know it's the world we live in, so I don't follow other sports as much. I'm a fan of hockey and baseball and football, obviously, but I'm not deep into it like this one. And I can't stand the social media, clickbait, fake news shit that I see out there in the media for our sport. And also the negativity that is out there. I can be critical, but I like to think I also present a reason why I'm critical, and here's what I think, and and communication with yourself and Mike, your brother, and Prater. You can get some answers that you need. You don't always agree, but it is a very it's easy to get into media now. Unfortunately, you have your cell phone, and now you could just be in the media. What's your take on that? And then just in general, the coverage of the SMX series.
I think any good sport needs all views and vantage points, right? So we need optimists, we need pessimists, we need people that we probably could do without the clickbait crap that you talked about, right?
Yep.
But everything else in between, I think we need, because if you just have one narrative, one storyline, one vision in terms of how the sport is portrayed, then you're only reaching a small subset of the population. There's a lot of people that follow you and agree with all the things that you say, and there's a whole other subset of people that disagree with you, but they agree with what maybe Sansarillo says or what JT says or whatever, right? Like, and I think you need that. I think also, like, we have all these different ways to consume the sport now. Back in the day, there was one or two options to get your news and what was out there. Do I think there could be some trimming of some, right? Because there's some people out there that just have a cell phone and are just putting out total garbage.
Yep. Right.
Sure. But there are some people that are following that, and at least they're talking about the sport, right? I always laugh at, like, the people that get on and just want to, roast us for what we're not doing and whatever we're doing. They still tune in on Saturday night. At the end of the day, they're still a fan. We may not like what they have to say as a fan, but they're still a fan, and I'll take it.
Right. So that's a very good, unique point, by the way. I like that. Yeah.
I think that we need everything. We need people that, because some people want to just follow controversy or just like the chaos or whatever. So if there are people, we don't want to create chaos. I don't necessarily want to deal and swim in chaos. But if there are people that like our sport because there's chaos, or because Hayden Deegan did something on the track, or because you had a differing opinion from how Feld did it or whatever, and that's what draws them into the sport and engages them, and they want to interact socially and hopefully buy some 511 gear and a Monster Energy, wonderful. I'll take it. No problem. So is there some crap out there? Sure. But I think all of these podcasts that are coming on and all these different people talking about the sport, and then again, go on to the Pat McAfee shows of the world, whatever, reaching a new audience, whether they say great things about the sport or maybe not so great things, at least they're talking about the sport. And maybe someone hears something not so great and like, I better tune in to see what the hell's going on over there. What's this Hayden Deegan guy doing? Like, all good stuff, in my opinion. That may be an unpopular opinion, and that may not be my organization's opinion, but you ask mine, and that's it. Like, I think we need all of those views and all of those people talking about it and different opinions.
If you could wave a magic wand to make our sport more sellable to the Verizons, the Nikes, these people, is there anything, Dave, that you would do that, maybe you're yelling at your brother or Prater, or you're yelling at Sean Brennan or anybody? Like, is there something that we could do that you're just like, guys, this is what we need? Anything come to mind?
I don't think there's nothing that we're not doing. It just, I would love to figure out how to dump gas on some of these fires, right? So like, how can Sean get us, and it's not from lack of effort, I know that definitively, but how can we get on more of the Fox and Friends, and how do we get on, ESPN Sports Center with some of the great things and the great passes that happen, or what these athletes are doing? How do we make these athletes even bigger superstars? How do we get more Haydens and Jets in the sport and promote the hell out of them and make them culturally relevant to a whole much wider audience than they are now? So really, it's about how do we grow that at the top? How do we grow that stardom and people just want to be a part of it? And then on the flip side of that is like, how do we continue to fill the funnel with youth? How do we reach more kids and get them excited in dirt bikes, get them wanting to throw a leg over one, or at least just be a fan? I'll take a fan, but I think fandom a lot of times comes from some level of involvement or exposure. So, the NFL is doing a wonderful job with flag football. What is our flag football? Is it e-bike racing? Is it electric scooters? I don't know what it is, but how do we get people to engage on two wheels and have that experience that, you and I know of motorcycling and that kind of stuff, and that passion for a motorcycle to become a fan? So it's both ends of the funnel to me. Like, how do we get bigger and better with our athletes and promoting them and reaching a wider audience? And how do we continue to fill the funnel? Because we're going to need these folks in 10 and 20 years. Back to kind of the Feld's vision of being able to take that long run at things. We're constantly thinking about that. How do we engage more women? How do we engage youth? How do we drive that so that we're successful for 5, 10, 8, 20, 30 years down the road?
Well, the Stasic stuff helps, right? The Kawasaki e-bike stuff in the pits. That's all very good. I understand, like, I know you guys charge for like the Stasic thing and even the Kawasaki thing, but from what I understand, you guys are pretty helpful because you understand there's a greater purpose here as far as getting kids on motorcycles and seeing parents, watch their kids ride around a little track. As far as space, or I don't know, one of the OEMs was like, no, Feld's been really, really cool because they understand that this is where it starts, Yeah. So
charge, yes, there's a marketing fee or sponsorship deal to be involved. But there's no fee to the fans. Like we want people to come up and get their kids on those bikes. We want to, we do the little whole shot challenge out on the track. We do, if you're watching the broadcast, we do that segment of Stasic, send that in so that we're getting kids out and riding. So yeah, we're absolutely leaning heavily into that. And then kind of the next phase of that is, what we're doing with SMX Next. So that platform for we want to have all degrees of youth involved. KTM kids and KTM juniors. I think that program that they do is absolutely exceptional. So we always make sure that when they want to do it, we have a space to include it, highlight it in the broadcast. People love it. So, and it's just one more way for a parent sitting at home to go, oh man, I didn't realize that 6 and 7 and 8 year olds could ride a motorcycle. Like, oh, it's electric on top. Oh, let me go check this out. Let me get on KTM.com. Let me get on Stasic.com, whatever. Right. Like that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the way how you get these people hooked, right? On two wheels. Stuff like you said, things that you and I have grown up with and we're passionate part of it. I guess to wrap this up, and you can probably dance around this question if you want, but I've been around, like, you were a part of the old regime of Supercross before Feld bought it. And I think it was very adversarial. The people that were running Supercross, and it's not the people that are involved now, but the older group, fought with the outdoor promoters. They fought with the media. They were just old school sort of tyrant live show people. And it has been really refreshing to see the Feld family come in and see cooperation across the board. You've spoken on it a bunch on this podcast. And I'm guessing, Dave, just for you, it makes it to be a better work environment to have sort of everybody on the same page because, the old people that ran it, and it changed hands. Live Nation, Pace, it changed hands a lot, but the same sort of, I can think of 3 people that were there for all of that. And it was adversarial, and I'm glad it's not anymore, Dave. I'm glad it's not. I'm happy that way.
And I've heard that many times. I feel it here in the building. So just different ways of just very different management styles. Yeah, and for some period of time and for some people, it worked really well. I think for the greater majority, I think the way that the Feld family embraces employees and embraces the sport and the people around the sport, whether that be the media, whether that be the teams, athletes, the track promoters at Pro Motocross, it's just a different mentality and mindset. If you're asking my opinion, which I like better, it's absolutely this one. And I'm not saying that because from a page that comes from today. I'm saying that because I truly believe it's better. I see that there's a vision for the sport and where it's going. And more so than just a vision is easy. There's action and activity happening today that helps drive towards that vision. Right, like that's the biggest difference I see is that again, we're able to think way further out, and we're able to surround the sport with people that are that care, are passionate, and are given the tools and resources to go and inflict change. Right, like that's the biggest difference is the collaborative effort. So I've always worked really closely with Prater and obviously my brother and PR group, Denny back in the day and Sean today. But it's so much wider than that. If you could name 10 or 15 people that work for our company on Supercross, there's 2 or 3x that actually touch the sport on a daily basis that are really driving that. So from a support standpoint, right, like we have the people and resources to do these things. So it's such a much better program, and it's going to be better for the sport. And I think you and everyone else are starting to really see that come to life.
Are you older or younger than Mike?
Older, 4 years older.
Yeah. It's you guys have such different personalities. Both of you are awesome people to talk to, but like Mike's just, doing his job, putting his head down, grinding out the operations. And you're like, hey man, how's it going? You're like the happy Muye. You're the happy Muye.
Could be, yeah. Different skill sets for sure. Like, and
Yeah.
you know, the beauty of it is like I couldn't and wouldn't do his job, and I think he would tell you he couldn't or does not want to do my job. So we're both exactly where we should be in the organization, and
Yes,
do what we like
you're right.
to do, and yeah, so it's great.
And then also our old buddy Denny Hartwig, the old Supercross PR man. That's when I first met you. I think I was at Denny's house in Chicago. Stayed there. Yep. How disgusted would he be with Sean Brennan providing snacks and coffee for the media? Like, if just how disgusted would he be?
You know, I think Denny generally is a pretty generous guy. And I think had he had the ability and resources like we just talked about that Sean has today, Denny might have been a much happier.
You think? Okay.
Maybe. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I've always found Denny to be a pretty generous, nice guy. So I like to think that he would have provided equally as good for you as Sean does today.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with that, but we can agree to disagree on our buddy.
We'll have to bring Denny on sometime. We can have this debate.
We can have great, and he can talk about how he used to get yelled at for this and that.
Right.
Oh, by the way,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if he would have went and asked for that stuff?
Oh, I know, right? Did we go big time with the trophy taking out the tooth of our star rider? Did that help? did we blow up because of that?
It didn't hurt, and I will say I have not talked to any of our friends at Daytona as to exactly any fallout that they may have had. I didn't hear any. It was certainly unfortunate. I was watching it live, and I think I gasped out loud, like, oh my goodness, did that just happen? Like, I felt so bad for all stakeholders involved, especially Eli.
Yes.
What an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fly Racing, RacerX podcast, motorsport.com, Maxxis, Brunt Workwear, Renthal, all on board with us. Use the code PulpMX to save. It's Dave Muye. Thanks, man. Thanks for the time on the podcast. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. I think it will educate some people. Obviously, you came in the Pulp Show studios last fall. That was great. And thanks for this, man. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the off week.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're looking forward and gearing up for Birmingham, but we're excited. And again, always appreciate you having us on here, and hopefully we'll have more stuff to talk about here very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Take care.